most of the things that drive us crazy about customer service is done on purpose, right?
Hello, I'm Shauna, and again, I'm joined by the lovely Amas.
Hi, Shauna. Good to see you.
Good to see you. I was actually a little surprised to see you. I was sure that you'd have CIA knocking on your door or something like that.
Nothing yet. Nothing yet. I'm still a free man, so.
Just a big phone bill.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I was actually really wondering. So we want to talk about the government and their services and how that interacts with waiting for service. But you called the Taliban government, and I'm like, what went through your mind where you thought, I'm just gonna try this out? How did you find the number? Like, what did you do? What was your decision making?
So I was writing the chapter around government services about the same time the American exit from Afghanistan. And like everyone around the world, we were all, worried about what would happen with, human rights and women and that. But then the Taliban came out and said, hey, nothing to worry here. We are a new and improved, better Taliban. We're not doing that again. They sound like an abusive boyfriend. But they're like, yep, we're not doing that again. And here is a phone number to call us if there's any problems. If you see, anything, call us and we will take care of it. So I thought, okay. And yeah, they put their phone number. So I was thinking about governmental services. So I thought, while I was researching and talking about government services in my state and all around the world, I thought, how does the Taliban compare to governmental services here in the U.S.? And I don't have good news. Do not have good news, because while I cannot comment on the quality of service because I don't speak the language, I can comment to the speed of response. And it is shockingly a lot faster to get your phone call answered by the Taliban than you can the governmental services here.
To be fair, I'm thinking, they've recently retaken over. Maybe they haven't got that many people calling them just yet. A lot of people did leave the country. Yeah.
I think
maybe just need to give it time.
Listen, Sean, I think you can't have labor shortages if you're recruiting with an AK-47. I think people tend to show up to work on time when those are the terms of employment. But on a serious note, I think it did point me into sort of thinking about, gosh, when we contact governmental services, the stakes are usually high. So if anyone really needs to have high response, it's got to be the government. And not to make light of what's happening there, I thought the number was a stunt, but I was shocked that someone answered it and started saying words I couldn't understand. But they answered it quite fast.
Did you try to speak English to them, or did you just?
I did. I mean, that's all I have.
Yeah. They were just kind of like this weirdo.
They kept speaking and I kept speaking, and there was no meeting of the minds.
You should have recorded that. I would love to have heard.
I should have. You too can call and have the CIA or whatever the version.
MI5.
Yes, come after you. So, but I needed to. It was a little bit of I didn't do much thinking about it clearly, but just in the moment they put the phone number out, and I Googled it, translated it, and called them.
Just in case anybody's looking to try, what's the area code?
I would not recommend even Googling Taliban phone number. I think that might get a knock on your door. So, but listen, all of my phone calls, all of my conversations, my thoughts are being read by Alexa anyway. She knows what I want to buy before, so I've given up privacy a long time ago. So I'm comfortable with the NSA listing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Google and Amazon have all of my information. So I just, what can you do? Now, why would you say that it's so important for the Taliban to have such fast response time in when the governments are for the people? That's what they're there for, to help shape society. So people trying to contact them should be a high priority. And it was very evident from what you wrote that, at least in your town, it wasn't. And I can say I have spent hours waiting in queues here for government services as well. So what is it that the Taliban see about answering quickly that maybe our governments don't, or our government services?
Yeah, I mean, look, of course, I would rather have our government any day over the Taliban, and I do not want to say anything nice about them. But I think in general, the importance of government services cannot be understated, in part because most of the things we need governmental services for are generally either involuntary, right? Like, it's not my choice to get a driver's license. If you left me in charge, I tend to lean libertarian. We would not need driver's licenses. That's why I'm not in politics. So you are the one making me come use these services. So there's that category. Then there's the other category is something terrible has happened in my life. I've lost my job and I now need unemployment assistance, right? So both of those things feel pretty involuntary and the stakes are very, very high. Or even worse, I'm in an abusive relationship as a child. I can go on and on. Like, governmental services are not luxury. It's not like some designer purse I want to buy and I'm mad and I'm waiting on hold. So the stakes tend to be a lot higher, and the level of service, whether you're dealing with the federal government, TSA, what have you, your Department of Public Transport, I can go on and on and on and on. There was not one person in any government, and I found that this is true all over the world, including, wherever you are. There are no good governmental customer service anywhere I could find. And if you are listening to this and have a good example, please send them to me. Because for the most part, we think about the Department of Motor Vehicles. We just associate governmental services with ineptitude, and we make these excuses for them. Civil servants are not underfunded, and we've accepted this nonsense, and we've somehow tricked ourselves into thinking that the services should be better at Amazon, where the stakes are so freaking low. I mean, the worst thing that happens to me when Amazon screws up is that the 10th piece of electronics I don't need doesn't show up on time. No one dies. Whereas on the governmental services, people die. I cannot feed my family. So we live in this bizarro world where the expectations are higher for commercial services or just for profits, and they're somewhat lower when it's, something as, minor as my fucking health and my life and my well-being. Like, it should be reversed. We should have higher expectations for governmental services, and there's no longer excuse. They now have the resources and everything to transform that. So it's now a matter of will and getting past the bureaucracies.
That's true. See, there was a quote that I had highlighted as part of what you said about digital technology, and that was most states are leaning into being digital first. They're putting greater emphasis on websites and mobile apps. How is that really serving the consumer? Well, not even consumer, but the everyday citizen, by implementing these services to improve, I'm guessing, customer experience, but is it really?
Yeah, it has the potential. It's no secret the governmental services all around the world, and I'll speak about the world I know about, which is here in my home country, in the United States, tend to be severely underfunded, right? Mm-hmm. We can get into all the whys to begin with. So that when you do have limited resources, it's not that automation or technology or digital in and of itself are necessarily bad. We've talked about there are good ways to do it and there are good use cases. It's really about how you do it and how focused you are on the human experience. If all you're trying to do is just replace humans, you are doing it wrong and you will have bad outcomes. If instead It's around complementing the human experience. And in fact, making those digital experiences feel human or human centered, then you can end up in a good place. So the realist in me says, look, for better or for worse, I don't see a scenario where these governmental services are adequately funded. I just don't see it happening anytime soon. So in the meantime, if they can take a smart approach of blending humans and automation, right, we can get to a better outcomes. Unfortunately, what I see a lot of now is digital for digital's sake. It's taken the long line at the office when you go to renew your license and go, oh, let's digitize this experience. They don't rethink the experience at all. They take that same long line and now they just put the long line on a website, right? Like, so it's like, nothing has really changed. I guess it's better to be in the long line at home in my pajamas than drive in there. So in that case, you can call it progress, but that is a missed opportunity to really begin to reimagine the experience. I'll give you some practical examples. Just consider the fact that, right, when I go in, let's say, you know, I'm employed and then I've lost my job, right? I go into the unemployment office. What do they ask me for in the unemployment office? What is your name? What's your date of birth? Do you have a copy of your driver's license? Can we get the picture of your mom giving birth to you? Can you do all of this? And no one's bothered to ask and go, well, wait a second. The department next door has all of this information, right? It's like, you should be one government. Why am I giving you and starting all over again? Like, you should be able to see that, hey, here's my driver's license information, verify some information from me, let me move on. You have my fingerprint on file. Why did you take my fingerprint again? If you are not going to use it to deliver service, you are only using it for the negative. You will use it. You somehow find a way to use my fingerprints if there's crime involved somehow. But if it's on the affirmative, on the positive, you can't use it to delight me, to save me this god-awful conversation I'm having with this person, trying to verify my identity and do all of this not. So that's an example of where you can use digital and technology and data to improve the experience smartly, so that, by the way, in this example, I lose my job. I go to the unemployment office. They get data from the Department of Public Transportation or whoever has my driver's license info. And oh, by the way, now maybe I need food stamps, right? I should go to the food stamp still, and they should see I've already been approved by the unemployment office, verify some information that, in fact, I shouldn't even have to go to the different department. They should all just be right there. I should check which ones I want to apply to, hit apply. That's what I think digital can look like, which, by the way, can produce cheaper outcomes, right? Doing it with less using technology, not just going, oh, we've got a queue here. Let's not make people wait here. Let's make them wait at home. Look at how awesome our new website is. That's not my definition of progress.
I don't think our governments have updated their websites since the early 2000s. I'm pretty sure it's exactly the same. Maybe they could. We're always a little bit behind you guys, so we'll wait a year and then we'll have all of your technology.
See what happened with us, and maybe it's here. Because of COVID, our federal government started, printing plenty of money, and some of those monies went to, like, you could not go to an office to go wait in line, right? They were closed, so they were forced. Government printed money and gave them money to do so. They were forced into doing some of this digital thing because you literally just couldn't go anywhere. Yeah. So our websites were probably just as bad, and over the last, because of COVID, a lot of them have gotten a lot, quote unquote, better.
Attention. Yeah. It's interesting because that was actually another point that I had highlighted about what you wrote in the book as well. And that quote was, the recent pandemic put a finer point on the century-long problem. When they were forced to shut their physical offices, the deficiencies in the system were further exposed. And I definitely think that is true. But it also showed me how they could change earlier and they just decided not to. I mean, your election, you managed to get postal voting in the tons more than ever before. Yep. So it's kind of like, why couldn't you do that before? Like, why weren't you pushing this before? My government has now rolled out an app that you can do to do your taxes if you're self-employed. So it's kind of like, we're not like you. We don't all have to do our taxes all the time. It's only if you are not working employed by a person. So that has become much easier as well, even though you have to go to like 3 websites to register. That's not the point. It's funny how everything, because of the pandemic, has literally just
It's the it's the fish or the turtle or the example, right? Like the fin is only going to grow as to the size of the aquarium, right? Like you're not so the government services we get is exactly what we deserve. In other words, you put up with it. Like this is the thing we put up with, and all of us reflexively just Shauna, just think about this, right? When you are going to any governmental services, think about your level of expectations. It's like here, so that when you get there and like someone smiles at you, you're like, oh my gosh, this is terrific. Like someone, pretended to care for 5 minutes. You were just like, it's because your level of expectations are here. And what I'm hoping is that, to your point, that we all sort of see that, oh, wait a second, right? The pandemic happens and all of a sudden things that we thought were impossible, oh, we can't do this, happen just like that. Like just like that. And we should not go back. We should refuse to return to a time when we were dealing with just terrible service. It's improved marginally, but the potential is just humongous. And frankly, here's the sadder part about governmental services. I actually think that if someone made me king to run governmental services in a state, a city, or what have you, and gave me, king, I want to be a dictator. I want to run dictator, full control of nothing at all. It will be it has the potential to be the best service anywhere in the world. And why do I say that? The dirty little secret about services, data and knowledge is the oil that makes it all run. And no one has more data than the government. Just think about this, right? I don't need you to tell me you've lost your job. I don't need you to tell. I'm the fucking government. like I take the money right out of your taxes. I've got your date of birth. I know where you live. I know everything you do because you tell me. Now let's think about, instead of me using that data for evil to surveil, I pointed that data towards delighting you. Just think about how I will blow your mind. The things I will deliver to you. It may even get so creepy, you're going, oh my gosh, the government loves me more than my wife, right? Like it will be that level of deal because I have all of this insight. But instead, the data just sits on servers somewhere, and I have to walk to the government and give them information they should already have. Like, how many times have you gone to a governmental services and they go, Shauna, we can't pull you up in there? What the hell do you mean you can't pull me up in there? Like you are the government. You have all of this. And he or she is not lying to you. There are so many little silos. He or she is in this small deal that doesn't talk to the department next door. And so you have to, so that's the level of nonsense we've all come accustomed to. And it doesn't have to be that way at all. It's just a failure of imagination.
It is. It really is the failure of imagination. You say that. The first thing that came to mind was the vaccine rollout. So, we were very quick to roll out the vaccine and everything, blah, blah, blah. However that's looking. But if you wanted to get your vaccine, you had to be registered with the NHS, which is our National Health Service.
Right.
And if you didn't know your NHS number and you weren't registered at a doctor's surgery, then they just couldn't find you, which means you just couldn't get your vaccine. You had to wait until they were just like, everybody come, and then you could go get your vaccine. But like, seriously?
Yeah.
And what's worse is that you register at a doctor's surgery, and if you don't go, in a certain amount of time, they unregister you. So you think you're registered and you're not. So it's kind of like, why?
They don't talk to each other. There's that, and then the level of right, like everyone's sort of numb to it. We have lowered our expectations. Employees of governmental services have gotten jaded. And I'm not, and this is not being critical. I've not been in that soup. I don't think I could do it. I would, get fired or quit within a couple of months. So I get it, but it's time for us to raise the bar, and it starts with raising the expectations and demanding more.
And on the note of demanding more, we've mentioned it actually in our previous conversations, and in the book that you actually recommended seeking out a representative or government representative. I'm not sure what you actually call them because you have like so many different people in America, but your government representative, and put pressure on them to do something. And I completely understood that in terms of a corporate stance. Right. But how can that work when you're approaching someone to try and fix something that's within their own departments? Is that really a thing?
Oh, absolutely it is. I mean, like at the end of the day, the way we put pressure on corporate companies is through our pocketbooks. We sort of talked about that. How do you put pressure on the government deal? The same way, dollars and cents. And what does that look like for them? Election, right? So while we have these bureaucrats who run these things, and I said bureaucrats in a little too harsh a way. I did not. But yes, you have those who administer it day to day. At the end of the day, it's a political organization. At the end of the day, there's someone who runs the thing who was put there or elected there by somebody else. So what I advocate is, gosh, if you hate the way the health department is done, what have you, right? Don't just focus on the guy who is the secretary. That's kind of what we call them. Right, your congressman, the one, and that person will be dying to help you do this. You know why? It scores them political points. They will call them to the Hill, and it's all theater. But you'll get, but it helps, right? They'll call them to the Hill and say, "Mr. Secretary, tell me why you suck so much, and my constituents have been trying to reach." And believe it or not, it is the only thing that works. That's it. Nothing else works. Your complaints, you're carrying in, asking for a manager gets you nowhere. In the end, every organization in the government, whether you like it or not, is run by a politician. It just is, right? If it's not the politician who runs it, the person who put him there is a politician who needs your votes. And votes matter. When you tell someone, and dollars also matter, right? It's becoming a thing of the past, but small donors donate. You tell them, hey, listen, Mr. Congressman, I'm going to tell all my grandma and all my family not to vote for you because I need you to solve this problem. I'm your constituent and this isn't happening. And at least I'm not familiar with politics across the pond, but here political pressure works pretty well.
It depends on who's sitting as our prime minister, to be honest. Current one definitely gives into pressure. He's good at that. So it definitely depends on who's on the thing. But you're completely right. You're voting for them, right? So yes. You should have that. It's exactly what we were saying before about buying power, knowing where your power is and using that. Yep. And I wondered because these services are probably, maybe it's more people are exposed to other services that are part of the government rather than, just if you need benefits or if you've lost your job or you need to register as unemployed or whatever. So I was unsure. So our post office service is part of a government. Is UPS part of, is that what you call it? The UPS, I think. Is that
US service? USPS. It's complicated, but in the end, it's sort of part of the government in that it's funded by the government, controlled by the government. but run somewhat by this independent board. But it's a long way of saying it very much runs and behaves like a governmental, USPS very much behaves like a part of the government. So it's this Frankenstein hybrid, but for all intents and purposes, it's a governmental agency.
And that pressure that you put on your congressman, it would apply to the USPS.
Yes, even more so, right? Because, look, I, for under 50 cents, can put a letter in the mail and it'll go anywhere in this country. Like that makes that makes no sense at all, right? And those prices are mandated by the government. So the government does not allow them to raise that. And this is not me advocating for higher prices, but this is just me acknowledging that the USPS does something that's fairly miraculous, but I'm not asking them to. I think I'll be willing to pay $1.25. Like, I think I'll be able to go double for better service. So, you know, it's one of those agencies, right, that is unique in that it interacts with the public, and the public is a paying public, right? It's actually a customer relationship in that, right? When I think about going to register my license and any of that kind of deal, I'm paying you because I have to. Like, they will not let me drive my car if I don't shell out this money. In this case, I am choosing to transact with you because I want to mail something from here to there, and I'm paying you money. So I really demand, I paid you for this service. So I don't want to hear that I didn't pay you enough. Well, raise your fucking prices, right? So that you can give me the service I demand. So the pressure works spectacularly well here as well, because there is a governmental appointee who runs the thing, who administers this. So yet again, the playbook works very well to say, guys, I want better service. Do whatever you got to do. I can't keep doing this. I mailed a package to my goddaughter in the Philippines. This has been 3 or 4 years ago. And, you know, her parents never got it. Like, wow. And my tracking said it was in customs in the Philippines. So I just said, forget about it, and ordered something else, paid. You know, I was trying to save a few bucks and take it to USPS. So screw it, right? I went to one of the commercial players, UPS or FedEx, paid, and they got this. I forgot all about it. A year and a half later, the package shows back up at my door, battered and tattered. You couldn't even, like, it'd been all around the world. And it was returned to me for return to sender, bad address or something. Like, you could see it has been just this destroyed. Like, it was closed, right? She was a baby at the time, so it wasn't like, but, you know, was still sort of in there. So like I have a picture of that then somewhere, like just a year and a half later, it made it all the way back to me. So if you think about the business model, this happens often, right? So if I mail a letter and let's say I don't put enough stamp on it, they will take the letter there and then bring it back to me, instead of just delivering the letter and sending me a bill. Like they'll just mail the letter there, not deliver it, and then just send it right back to me, instead of going, hey, we mailed your letter, you now owe us 50 cents or whatever. And I would send it to them. So, you know, the problems at the USPS and at the post office all around the world is similar to governmental agencies, which is that the bar is so low, no one expects anything out of it. And so they deliver accordingly. And I'm hoping it's time we demanded more, and we got these agencies to perform the way we need them to.
I definitely don't think it's as cheap over here to send a letter. You definitely got to choose the type of stamp you want, and that determines the price, the weight, all of that. It's a bit more complicated, but you still got to go somewhere to do it. And obviously all of the commercial companies, like you said, you ended up using, they will come pick it up at your door. Like, it does those kind of service offerings that the corporates are doing have an effect on the kind of service they can offer to the government postal service, when you're only really using them if you have to. Like, it's really about like snail mail and maybe not packages where they can get the extra money to cover the services.
Yeah, no, listen, I think that the competition with the private has an impact. In fact, I always love when there's a governmental option competing with a private option because it raises the bar. And to
Mm.
some extent, you can see some of that already happening, even in the USPS. Let me say some nice things about them, for example. I think a year ago or 2 years ago, they started this thing where every morning I get an email that tells me what's in my mailbox. Tends to be mostly junk, but they scan all the letters and they scan it to me, so I don't have to walk to my mailbox. I just open my email and I see a copy of all the letters that are there. Well,
Yeah.
I see where that's going, right? I can imagine a day where it's like, well, I suspect those emails are getting opened far more than the letters in my mailbox. I could see that becoming a vehicle for advertisement and for additional revenues and all of those things. I say that to say, you said this pickup thing. USPS now does exactly what you just
Oh, they
described.
do?
I am seeing that they get influence. And if you make this a free market thing, right? And so at the end of the day, there are options, right? If I want to send something, I have in the United States, there are several others, but for the most part, the big guys are UPS, FedEx, right? Commercials tend to be expensive, and I have USPS that does the same thing for a cheaper rate.
Mm-hmm.
If you allow the free market to deliver and let the governmental agencies compete with all of that, it raises the bar and everyone's games gets uplifted. So I think that's part of the thing is like if you free them up and you held them more accountable on and on and on and on and stop hiding behind it's the government. I think what happens for consumers like you and I is we all get more choices and more options to send mail or whatever it is we're trying to do.
Mm. Yeah, I definitely agree. You have to invest in order for them to invest. That I know you wanted to say something positive, but I remembered specifically in this part of the book, the funniest thing that I read was this quote, which says, "The post office seems to be trying to be good at customer service, but they're still failing. I know they're trying to be good because they have a massive banner in their office that says they care about the customer experience. Yet they proceed to make us wait for hours and deal with rude employees." Do they have a different understanding of what good customer service is? Do we need
Yeah,
to set their expectations?
and it's so maddening because they also pressure you to fill out surveys, and I'm like, well, you're not here. Did you not watch what just what you really want me to give you feedback? And I think it's what I've kind of dubbed customer experience porn, right? Which is sort of like it's just sort of everywhere. It's demonstrative, like because what else? What are you gonna say? Like you don't care about customers, or what are you gonna say? Black lives don't matter. Like it's just just kind of performance art because it's what's expected now. Like customer experience this, so like it's so tone deaf. So I think I would rather use, the money on all these banners across all of your deals be spent in actually improving the experience versus acting and showing like you improve the experience. So it's in a lot of kind of things we see in society where it's more important to look like you are doing something or helping or da 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 than it is to actually do the things that matter. We start first with the symbols versus the actual thing, and this is an epitome of that, right? It's do the work of improving the experience and improving service, then put the banner up, right? It's like not to like so take the all this wokeness that goes on in corporate America, right? It's like hire some minority executives, hire some whatever before you say we care about women or before you say, but it's now just commonplace to see things like that. So I don't claim to doubt their sincerity. I'm not interested in beliefs or da da da. I'm more of a guy. Show me the thing. I don't believe in. I don't believe anyone. Show me, show me the evidence, and the evidence suggests not much has changed, other than there's this a halo of customer experience this, and I'm just not buying it.
I'm not buying it either, clearly. I actually, my notes for that part was, are they sour because they aren't necessary anymore? And are they stuck between a rock and a hard place? Because there is the kind of balance between budget and what you can provide. And we have been talking about the fact that people don't necessarily invest in their customer service departments. So are they stuck in a rock and a hard place?
I think that's a false choice, and we've got to get out of that thinking, right? Like, because it suggests it's what got us here in this first place. It's this false choice of great customer service or profits, great experience or profit. It is just not true. Like, and you don't have to believe me. Just tell me your handful of few favorite customer experience companies, right? And let's review. And what you're going to find is, let's go to the airline world in the United States, right? There's only one of them, right, that's consistently made a profit pretty much throughout its existence. There's only one of them that was profitable throughout, even after 9/11, and all of the rest of them are reporting losses, and that's Southwest Airlines. And no one disputes the fact that Southwest Airlines treats its people, employees and customers, better than anyone else. I can keep going. You can go to another deal, Zappos, that has a cult following. We can keep going. Like, if you want to say Apple in certain parts. So the notion that somehow, gosh, if we over customer experience, we will go out of business is just not true. What is true is that if you want to compete on price, if you want to compete on something else, then yes, you have to find a place to cut corners. And sadly, people choose service to do that in. I know for a fact that if you over-index and over-invest in the service experience, you will get rewarded. The key is you have to be smart in how and well you do it, right? So, for example, don't go do some service and experience things that your customers don't want or they didn't ask you for, right? And I see that plenty of times in the deal, in the trying to give me the best experience, and I go, like, who asked you for that, right? Like, I've had clients who will talk about this omni-channel, who say they want to invest in making sure that when I call or when I visit, they can connect all the dots and we can have this da da da. And I just go like who's the customer who is like, hey, listen, when I go to Best Buy, when I'm on their website searching for a laptop, when I walk into the Best Buy shop, I want the guy to know that laptop I've already been searching for that's in my cart and hand it to me. No one asked you for any of that, right? So if you invest in that and saying to me, Amos, I'm not getting the ROI, it's because you're doing it wrong, right? The things customers tend to want and overvalue are fairly simple. Like, don't send me an email and tell me not to reply. Like, do I call you and say, hey, Shauna, Shauna, I need you to blah, 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 but please don't reply because I don't read my emails. Like, what the hell? Like, how? Like, what are you doing? Like, they're not asking you for the world. They're very sort of vanilla things, right? Do not send me an email and tell me to call you. No, I didn't start this. If you wanted a phone conversation, you should have called me, right? You started it here. So those are the very basic things customers want, and we tend to overemphasize. That's why you would hear back to governmental services, oh, we have this sort of limited budget, da-da-da. Of course it is. But if you sat down and had a little bit of imagination and thinking about how might I use the limited resources I have to focus on the experience, right? I would just give you a very simple example, right? I walk into governmental agencies. Have you noticed those buildings? I look at this building and I go, this is a nice building, old, inside not so much. I go, how about you sell these buildings to someone else and rent it just a small cubicle, put that money into hiring more staff to give me better service. So again, it's a failure of imagination. I don't work there, and just looking from the outside, I can already come up with some simple ideas to make things better. I think it's just an excuse that, we don't have the money. You can find the money.
Do you know what? I completely agree with you, because it's funny how they've just found money to pump into the pandemic and saving the airlines, but they can't find money to give us good customer service. So I completely agree with you. So unfortunately, we're out of time, because I could actually spend hours talking about this with you. But I will be back again with you, so because I want to talk about the future of customer service. So until next time, thank you so much for joining me again.
Thanks, Sean.